They laughed when I told them I was taking a janitor job. My name is Michael, and this is the story of how being underestimated became the most powerful weapon I ever had. My family called me a loser, a disappointment, someone who would never amount to anything. They didn't see the truth. They didn't know that silence can be stronger than words, that patience can turn mockery into astonishment. Stay with me, because what happened next at Christmas dinner changed everything. Before I dive in, remember, this humility isn't weakness, it's a secret strength. I was 25 and had just graduated from college. My family expected me to climb the corporate ladder immediately, to live in luxury, to make connections and impress. Instead, I took a janitor job at a private school, early mornings cleaning classrooms, emptying trash cans, wiping floors. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't respected, and my family made sure I knew it. At every family dinner, at every phone call, they reminded me how small I was, how beneath them, how much of a joke I had become. I smiled and said nothing, because I knew something they didn't. I knew my father had a plan. One, he never spoke of a secret he kept for the child who would prove character mattered more than appearances every day. At work, I observed the wealthy parents dropping their kids off, the teachers, the administration. I learned how things ran behind the scenes, who trusted who lied to climb it. Was boring work on the surface, but I was learning, and while my family laughed at my uniform, I built my understanding of people, of patience, of timing. Months passed, then years. Each Christmas dinner was the same: laughter at my expense, jokes about my career, comments about how I should give up and find something respectable. I nodded, let them talk, because I knew my time was coming, and no amount of mockery could speed it up or slow it down. The rules were clear. The inheritance would only go to the one who showed humility and independence, and I was the only one who qualified. The envelope from the lawyer came in early December. It was thick-stamped with the family seal inside, was the legal confirmation, $200 million, and instructions for how it was to be revealed. I didn't celebrate. I didn't tell anyone, not even my closest friends, because the moment had to be perfect, and nothing teaches humility better than making someone wait. Christmas morning arrived colder than usual. I put on my plainest clothes, not the expensive suit my family expected, just a simple sweater and slacks. I wanted to blend in, to be invisible. The house was bustling with relatives, cousins running through the halls, aunts and uncles exchanging gossip, my parents sipping coffee and eyeing me like they always did. They laughed the second I walked in. Michael, the janitor, the joke of the family, my little failure. I smiled politely, because I knew the joke wasn't over, not by a long shot. Dinner was long and full of small insults, questions about why I hadn't moved out, why I hadn't started a real career. My father's favorite chair sat empty. He passed years ago, but his presence was always felt in these gatherings, and now it was about to be felt in the most unforgettable way. After the main course, my lawyer stood and cleared his throat. Everyone turned, could see their curiosity, confusion, some irritation at the interruption. He held an envelope stamped with the family crest and began to speak slowly, formally, every word cutting through the chatter. $200 million, a secret inheritance left by my father, legally mine, accessible only to the one who demonstrated humility and independence, the one who had lived outside the luxury and comfort of the family wealth. The room went silent. My parents froze. My siblings' mouths hung open. Cousins whispered to each other. Aunts clutched their napkins. The lawyer handed me the envelope. I stood calm and shaken, and opened it in front of everyone. Every signature, every clause, all verified. $200 million, legally my possession. The room buzzed with disbelief. Older brother tried to speak, but no words came out. He sputtered. He asked how. I didn't answer. I just smiled politely, the same smile I had worn through years of mockery. My parents tried to grasp it. Their faces shifted from pride to regret to confusion. Cousins and aunts looked at me differently, not just surprised but aware, finally aware that I had been underestimated for years. I didn't gloat. I didn't raise my voice. I simply let the envelope rest on the table and let them process the weight of the truth. For the first time in years, I felt my father's presence fully. His plan had worked, not through force, not through argument, but through patience, through quiet strength, through living the life they all dismissed. That Christmas dinner ended with polite congratulations, hesitant smiles, awkward toasts, and me sitting quietly, knowing I had won, not through vengeance but through waiting, through proving that humility and diligence can create power stronger than arrogance or mockery. And in that quiet moment, realized true power doesn't need to yell, it just waits and lets everyone else reveal themselves. The moment my lawyer announced the inheritance, time seemed to stretch. The room filled with gasps and whispers, eyes wide with disbelief, hands frozen over plates, everyone staring at me like I had grown overnight. I could feel their shame, their realization that they had laughed at me for years, mocked my job, called me a loser, assumed I would never amount to anything. My brother tried to stand, his face face, red, his jaw tight. He opened his mouth but no words came out, because how do you explain underestimating someone who suddenly holds all the cards? I smiled quietly, because I didn't need to say a word. The envelope on the table, the signatures, the legal documents, every one of them said everything I needed them to know. My parents sat in silence, the ones who had raised me to be humble, now confronted with the irony of my life's choices validating their own lessons too late. The cousins whispered behind hands aunts, and uncles shifted uneasily in their chairs, and I sat back relaxed, finally free of the weight of their judgment. I didn't gloat, I didn't shout, I let the moment breathe, because true victory doesn't need noise. It's the quiet satisfaction of knowing that what is rightfully yours can never be taken away. No matter how loudly others laugh, that Christmas evening, after the initial shock faded, my family tried to process it politely. Some attempted congratulations, others avoided eye contact entirely, and I learned something valuable, that wealth without respect is hollow, and respect earned quietly is more powerful than any fortune. I didn't change who I was. I continued my work at the school. The janitor job that had taught me patience, that had given me perspective, that had hidden me in plain sight, while everyone else made their assumptions at the same time. Invested the inheritance wisely, ensuring the family fortune grew, not out of spite but because I knew my father's intention. He had wanted me to prove that humility and diligence could create power stronger than arrogance. Over the next few months, family gatherings became awkward. The laughter was gone, replaced by quiet glances, hesitant conversations, and the realization that I had become untouchable, not through scheming or anger, but by simply living my life, consistently, patiently, correctly. My brother tried to reassert authority, called meetings, attempted to reclaim respect, but I had the law, the money, and the moral high ground. Every move he made was met with gentle refusal, every argument countered by patience and truth, and slowly, he understood that he had underestimated me completely. By the following Christmas, the family dynamic had shifted. Was no longer the joke. I was the one quietly in control, holding the cards, watching as the people who once mocked me learned what true power feels like. I never gloated, I never raised my voice, because revenge had never been the goal. The goal was patience, the goal was endurance. The goal was proving that living with integrity and humility can yield rewards that arrogance and mockery never will. And as the evening came to a close, I looked around the table, and for the first time, I felt a deep sense of peace, because the laughter that had once wounded me was replaced by respect, quiet, subtle, and infinitely more satisfying than any loud victory could ever be. If you've ever been mocked, underestimated, or told you would never succeed, remember this. True power is quiet. Waits, it observes, and when the moment is right, it lets the world know without saying a word that it was there all along. The weeks after Christmas felt surreal. My family tried to adjust to the reality that the janitor they laughed at now legally controlled the fortune they assumed they had. My parents were conflicted, pride mixed with regret. They wanted to express congratulations, but every word felt awkward, every smile forced. My older brother avoided me. He called less, visited less, but when he did, I noticed the way he watched me, careful, cautious, learning humility the hard way. I kept my routine at the school, cleaning classrooms, emptying, trash wiping floors. It wasn't because I enjoyed labor. It was a reminder of the lessons the job had taught me. Patience, observation, humility. Employee S and friends noticed the change in the family. The laughter that once echoed through the halls was replaced with quiet awareness. Even my parents began treating me differently, not because of wealth, but because of what it represented. Consistency, integrity, a life lived without needing validation. I began investing the inheritance carefully, thoughtfully, ensuring growth without arrogance. Every decision measured, every risk calculated. Christmas gatherings the following year were calmer, the teasing gone, replaced by subtle respect. Conversations were tentative, cautious. Family members realized that they had underestimated me, and the lessons I had silently learned on the floors of that school were far more valuable than anything they had assumed. One evening, while cleaning late at the school, I found myself reflecting on the years of mockery, the doubts, the laughter that stung more than any insult. I realized those moments had shaped me, forged the patience I now carried, and taught me the power of silent endurance. Never flaunted my wealth. I never reminded anyone of the inheritance, because the true victory wasn't in money. It was in perspective, in the knowledge that I had succeeded on my own terms, without losing myself to anger or revenge. Sometimes my brother would ask advice cautiously, carefully, and I would give it not as a superior, but as someone who had walked the long path of humility and emerged stronger over time. The family adjusted, not fully, not perfectly, but they learned to respect the person I had become, the one they had once laughed at. I sat in my father's favorite chair one evening, looking at the fireplace, and thought about what he had left me. Not just wealth, but a lesson in patience, in resilience, in quiet strength. I realized then that life's true inheritance isn't measured in money, it's It's measured in character, in the ability to endure, to observe, and to emerge unshaken when the world thinks you're weak. If you've ever been laughed at, underestimated, or told your path was wrong, remember this: the people who mock you cannot take what is meant for you. And sometimes, the quietest victories are the ones that echo the loudest. Years passed, and the family learned to live with the new reality. The laughter at my expense was gone, replaced by cautious respect. Sometimes quiet glances, sometimes hesitant conversations. I continued my work at the school. Every mop, every trash can, every polished floor reminder of the patience that brought me here, and of the humility that my father had valued above all. The inheritance was no longer a secret. It funded investments, charity, and the growth of ventures my family had assumed only they could manage, yet I never flaunted it, never boasted, because the lesson wasn't in showing off, it was in the quiet strength I had carried through the years. My older brother tried to assert himself occasionally, but he had learned the hard way. True power doesn't need to shout, it waits, it observes. It acts only when it is certain. One evening, at a family gathering much smaller than the old ones, my brother approached me cautiously. He asked advice on managing a project. I gave it without arrogance, without gloating, simply sharing knowledge, because true victory lies in peace, not humiliation. Holidays continued. The house no longer echoed with ridicule, but there was a subtle acknowledgement that I had walked a path they could not see, and had emerged not just wealthy, but stronger, wiser, more grounded. I thought about my father often, about the lesson he left me: humility, patience, endurance, the understanding that being underestimated can be the greatest advantage, because while the world laughs, you prepare, you learn, you wait, and when the time comes, the world is forced to acknowledge what they ignored. I still walk the school halls occasionally, a janitor in plain clothes, cleaning floors, watching life unfold quietly, and remembering that my journey isn't about money or revenge. It's about character, the kind of strength that waits, that endures, that turns mockery into astonishment without raising a voice. If you've ever been laughed at, told you would never succeed, underestimated for your choices, remember this: true victory isn't loud, it's quiet, it's patient, and when it arrives, it commands attention without effort. Thank you for listening. If this story reached you, if it reminded you that patience and humility carry their own power, stay with us on Revenge Reels. Every week, a new tale of betrayal, a new tale of poetic justice. Next time, you'll hear about a woman whose inheritance was stolen only to reclaim it in the most unexpected way, but not through anger, through cleverness and patience. Until then, keep faith in yourself, and remember, the quietest victories echo the longest.